This video is sponsored by NordVPN. As a group of Luftwaffe reconnaissance aircraft flew over Belgrade on April 13, 1941, Captain Fritz Klingenberg pointed at the skies and then back at his watch. Time was ticking. Should the Yugoslav Mayor not surrender his city, Klingenberg would call upon a rampant air attack and artillery barrage, sparing none of the capital's 200,000 citizens. But the mayor obliged. However, he did not know that he had just been duped by one of the sneakiest and most conniving men of the Schutzstaffel. On that day, Captain Klingenberg, with only 6 men and a whole lot of guts, captured a critical city in the Balkans, defeating thousands without a single gunshot. Virtual private networks are your best ally to hide your data and protect sensitive information from prying third-party eyes while using a public hotspot. That's why NordVPN is essential to the work we do at Dark Ducks, helping us keep our team like a well-oiled machine. We know it sounds complex, but in reality, NordVPN is easy to install and use. All you need to do is download the software, enter your login credentials, and pick the location you wish to browse from. With NordVPN's 5,200 servers in 60 countries, the possibilities are endless. Don't miss out on the Cyber Month deal NordVPN has for all Dark Docs viewers. Visit nordvpn.com/darkdocs or click the link in the description below and get a 73% discount off the 2-year plan, plus 1 additional month for free. By obtaining this deal, you pay only $3.16 per month. For non-stop protection on any device, use NordVPN at home, at work, and on the go, getting the best value for your hard-earned money. Protect your home network and online footprint with our sponsor, NordVPN. Yugoslavia. In early 1941, the German Wehrmacht was stalled in the west, and Nazi top brass was putting the final touches on Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union. Simultaneously, the Führer was conspiring to conquer North Africa and realize his dream of a Teutonic empire in the Middle East. To succeed in all these endeavors, the Nazis depended on the nations of the Balkans, a geographic area in Southeast Europe that connected the continent with Africa. Thus, Hitler began to personally woo and lightly threaten Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary. Then, on March 24, 1941, Prince Paul of Yugoslavia agreed to sign the Axis-Tripartite Pact, officially becoming allies as the Third Reich. Back in London, Prime Minister Winston Churchill fumed with anger, as the Prince Regent had previously assured him that his country would remain neutral. Consequently, British agents stationed in the country's capital of Belgrade convinced the anti-Nazi Yugoslavian army into launching a rebellion against the Germans. On March 26th, military officers and anti-fascism troops seized government buildings, radio and television exchanges, police headquarters, air bases, aircraft, and armament, swiftly toppling the already weak Yugoslav government. After storming into an empty palace, Prince Paul was captured as he attempted to escape by train. The monarch was forced to abdicate and retreat to exile in Greece, leaving 18-year-old King Peter as a puppet monarch. When the day ended, the coup d'etat had been accomplished without civilian or military bloodshed. However, the new administration announced that Yugoslavia would remain faithful to the Tripartite Pact, after realizing that although the Allies had been supportive, they knew they were in no position to assist them against a full-force German attack. Change of plans. When Hitler heard of the coup, he became enraged. He ordered his generals to destroy Yugoslavia as brutally as possible, both militarily and as a national unit. By the beginning of April, the neighboring country of Bulgaria was already occupied by the Germans, and many troops passed through the nation on their way to invade Albania, Greece, and all of Africa to the south. For the Germans to secure their left flank and clear the supply routes necessary for further subjugation, Yugoslavia needed to be conquered as fast as possible. Thus, the 1st SS Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler and 2nd SS Das Reich divisions were ordered to thrust through Siberia, reach Belgrade, and weaken the city through a 2-week planned bombardment, followed by massive armored and artillery attacks. To carry out this strategy, the Germans intended to employ tens of thousands of their men to occupy the city after the capture. However, although Belgrade did suffer through days of artillery and aerial attacks that weakened it, the city ultimately surrendered much earlier than the High Command expected. And this was achieved by only a handful of men, led by a captain who was not afraid to defy his own superiors and seize an opportunity when he deemed fit. the magician. The attack on Belgrade was carried out by none other than Waffen-SS Captain Fritz Klingenberg, a 26-year-old who had a reputation as a headstrong and abrasive man. In 1940, his former company commander referred to Klingenberg as, quote, intelligent yet headstrong, loyal yet not above correcting his superiors, brilliant under pressure yet arrogant to the point of insubordination. Klingenberg was part of the 2nd Elite Troops of the 2nd Waffen-SS Panzer Division Das Reich. During the Battle of France in 1940, his heroism and courage earned him the Iron Cross 2nd Class. The officer also had a habit of going through several near-death experiences. On one occasion, he took out several 3-man French positions with grenades by himself without any injuries. During another engagement, he called upon a team of Junkers Ju-87 Stuka dive bombers down on his own position to stop the Allies from retreating, which resulted in the capture of over 50 prisoners of war. The action earned the upstart captain the Iron Cross 1st Class. Because Klingenberg always emerged unscathed, his men nicknamed him the Magician. The officer also gained the reputation of a first-rate scrounger. He always managed to provide what his men needed, primarily by stealing. After arriving in Yugoslavia, Fritz Klingenberg was promoted to captain and commander of a unit responsible for rapid intelligence gathering and communication maintenance. Taking after their captain, the men from the unit had the division's record for most complaints and theft reports. They were referred to as Klingenberg's criminals. But the magician had taught them well, and no allegations against his men were ever confirmed. Disobeying orders. Klingenberg's mission in Yugoslavia was to reconnoiter the area ahead of the Central Armored Unit, scouting for enemy activity and opening roads on maps. However, Klingenberg had other plans. Instead, he decided to inspect Belgrade. After his team found an abandoned motorboat tied to a tree, the captain, 1 sergeant, and 5 privates attempted to cross the Danube to the capital. The trip proved to be extremely treacherous, with raging currents from melting snow and torrential rain. Their overloaded boat barely reached the other side of the river. When Klingenberg sent 2 of his men on a return trip for more troops, the boat finally gave in, and the vessel sank before they reached the other side. Klingenberg was now left with only 6 men, low ammunition, and limited supplies. As the group advanced on foot, they encountered Yugoslavian troops. But the SS unit captured 2 of their trucks and 1 bus, along with 20 enemy soldiers. One of the men in the vehicle was an inebriated German tourist who had gotten stuck in Belgrade when the Yugoslavian invasion began. Taking advantage of this strange occurrence, Klingenberg decided to use the tourist as an interpreter, and the German happily obliged. The SS men, prisoners, and the tourist advanced towards Belgrade, using their captive's uniform to get past enemy checkpoints. Not long after, the Germans drove their captured vehicles into Belgrade, and they were soon surrounded by a wide-eyed and bewildered population. Then, after parking, Klingenberg ordered his men to raise a German flag. Ruse. Under their captain's orders, the SS men confidently strutted around the capital, signaling the Belgrade locals that they were now in charge. Soon after their arrival, the city's mayor and several city officials came up to them. Assuredly, Klingenberg told the politician that his unit was the leading team amongst several SS tank divisions nearby. Should he not follow his orders, he would order a Luftwaffe air attack, artillery barrage, armored and infantry attacks, and spare no one. The SS men looked at their captain in shock. Their radios were damaged, their armored unit was far away, and they ran critically low on ammunition and food. Out of all of Klingenberg's antics, this charade was the most unexpected. Just then, as if on cue, a group of German reconnaissance aircraft flew over the city. The cheeky captain pointed at the skies and then at his watch, reminding the mayor that time was ticking. The Belgradian politician then fell for the ruse. After a long conversation with the SS captain, the duo began arrangements for Belgrade's official surrender. Klingenberg gave him his word that they wouldn't hurt the local population if all instructions were followed. On April 13th, Belgrade surrendered to a handful of Germans without firing a single shot. That same day, Klingenberg's men on the other side of the Danube arrived in the city, saw their flag, and were amazed to find the team they believed lost fraternizing with the locals. Disbelief. German intelligence had projected Yugoslavian army casualties in the tens of thousands upon the surrender of Belgrade. When the German High Command heard about Klingenberg's feat, They didn't believe the story at first. Lieutenant General Paul Hauser was even ordered to travel to Yugoslavia to investigate. Upon arrival, Hauser found a staggeringly drunk Klingenberg. When he asked the captain to explain why he had not followed the Fuhrer's direct orders, the unshaven and foul-breathed officer replied, quote, "What was I to do, give the city back?" In the end, the mission was accomplished and the advance into Greece was ahead of schedule. That was all that mattered. Yugoslavia would ultimately surrender a few days later. Standartenführer. During Belgrade's takeover, Klingenberg had shown concern not only for the welfare of his motorcycle reconnaissance unit, but also for the fate of the Yugoslavian civilians. He and his men stayed at the most luxurious hotels and were treated exceptionally well by the civilians, who knew they could have suffered a much more unfortunate fate. Ultimately, every man that served during the Belgrade occupation earned promotions and decorations for valor. Klingenberg received the Knight's Cross, the Nazi equivalent of the Medal of Honor, for his spirited performance and leadership. During Operation Barbarossa, the captain continued to prove himself to the Nazi cause. And in 1943, Klingenberg's Knight's Cross earned a further distinction, additional oak leaves given only to a handful of men who continued to show merit in combat bravery. Then, on December 21, 1944, Fritz Klingenberg, now a personal favorite of Commander Hauser, was promoted to SS Standartenführer, and 2 weeks later, he was appointed to command the SS Division Götz von Berlichingen, defending Germany against the United States Army. However, on March 23, 1945, Klingenberg was hit by a tank shell during a firefight and succumbed to his injuries. Thank you for watching our Dark Ducks channel. If you liked this video, and don't forget to leave us a comment, subscribe to all our channels, and hit the bell icon to be notified of all our newest content.